Hey guys, I am Reyna. I am the creator of Your Modern Business and LyancaReyna.com. I am on the line with Deborah Hawkins today, and if you're wondering and joining us from the community or from DeborahHawkins.com or Lyanca.com or even the ABC segment, then welcome, welcome. And I just wanted to take a couple seconds to introduce Deborah because she's just a wonderful integrative coach. She has been coaching for over 15 years. She's just amazing. She is considered the coach's coach and also just a very heart-centered communication expert. So we also wanted to bring her on and just to talk a little bit about relationships, communication, and all of that jazz. So hi, Deborah.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
Yay. We're so glad to have you. And
Yeah, I do want to say, welcome to those who, if you may have followed this trail from the ABC interview, glad to have you here. And like Lyanca said, whether you're following Lyanca and I and becoming part of our tribe, we welcome you as well.
yes, yes, absolutely. Well, Deborah, I want to get right into the content because there's so much juicy stuff here. And I mean, gosh, we could talk for hours, but we don't want to take up a lot of people's time. And we did want to just, fill this with content and just a little bit of segment. So let's just get started. I think that, a lot of times, well, first of all, let's just drop into ourselves and be present with this interview. And so if you're just kind of multitasking, just stop for a second, come and visit with us and play with us and be really present here and just take a deep breath and just hear what maybe something that you're about to receive would be specifically for you. So, Deborah, sometimes people have a lot of issue around, we talk about love and we talk about relationships, and I know this is that time of year, but, one of the big relationships we have is our family. And I think that a lot of people struggle with their family communications. Even if they do or they don't, sometimes we don't even express that we are struggling. But for those that are having some very obvious family struggle with communication, they really, maybe the waters are really murky, something was said or something was unsaid, how does one deal with that and be very, and be without being beyond the lines?
Yeah, actually, these tools can be used whether it's family or whether it's a partner or, even someone in the business world. I think the main thing is before you begin a dialogue with someone, and by the way, I want to establish this first. Sometimes we think about the difference between in communication. I think about dialogue and monologue. And, monologue is when you just doing all the talking and you're not doing much listening. Dialogue is when there's actually two people involved and you're really recognized and aware of that. I would say if you're in conflict with a family member or a partner, before you go back and engage again, there's a term that I like to use called self-soothing. And that would be where you really get yourself centered and calm. I mean, let's face it, when you approach anyone with anger or bitterness, immediately we're all programmed to resist that.
Yeah.
And, want to push it back, or automatically we just get angry right back. So the idea would be, when you want to have one of those powerful conversations, to make sure that you've done your self-soothing so that you can show up really present and very calm and in a position where you're prepared to listen as well.
Yeah.
Another thing people aren't very aware of when they're in conversations with others is this idea that when you don't want to speak at someone and say you did this and you did that, and because of this you made me feel. I think it's really important when you're in these serious conversations is to recognize, to use, bring it back to yourself, stop the finger pointing and the judgment and go into, when this happened, I felt this way. Because the truth is, no one really makes us feel any way. So it's kind of bringing it back in, being willing to self-soothe and calm, and use I statements, rather than you made me feel. It's a lot easier to hear if you say, when you said this, or when you did this, or when this happened, I felt this way. So it's kind of bringing it back to self-responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. So, basically, the takeaways from that would be to definitely engage in a dialogue instead of a monologue where you're just talking at someone, so that the other person can be received, and that, you can have more of an awareness around what the whole dynamic is.
Yeah, and I think another really big awareness for people to have in these serious conversations would be also when you sit down to talk with someone, be prepared to really listen. I mean, most of us are so busy thinking about what we're going to say next that we really don't hear what the person is saying. So if you can get yourself in a place where you're willing to listen, and this is the key, to listen with curiosity rather than feeling defensive. If I'm listening, if I'm listening and if I'm in that defensive mode, I'll automatically become defensive too, or angry, or upset. But if we're listening to our partners or our family or whoever we're engaged with, if we listen to them with curiosity, like, why do you feel that way? I mean, what's making this go on inside of you? Curiosity is it's an energy that creates a space between people that is a much more peaceful realm. So I would encourage everyone to think about, when you're talking to the other person, how can I be curious about how they really feel,
Right.
rather than defensive.
Wow, thank you. Yes, there's so much I could have interjected with that. Like, I totally do that, and a lot of times I know that even between my husband and I, we're talking, and I'm immediately going to think, okay, what's he going to say, and what am I going to say? So, sometimes just, intently listening with, okay, I'm curious of why he's taking that position, and what can I get from that? So sometimes I do try to bring that back, and I do find that we have a much better conversation around the total issue when we do that. So thank you. The next, the next question. Go ahead.
One other thing I was going to say is that a very helpful tip when you're dealing with conflict and when you're listening to the other person sometimes is to actually repeat what you hear, and to make sure that you're hearing it right. Because, sometimes people are talking and we may be hearing what they say in a very different way than how they're trying to convey that. So, if you were telling me something, I might say, well, what I'm hearing you say, Lyanca, is, that you felt really upset when, I said X, Y, Z or whatever.
Right.
But it helps because sometimes, we're hearing things with our perception and the other person has something totally different going on in their mind. So when you repeat it back and say, did I get that right? Mm-hmm. It also helps the other person feel very heard and validated. And I can assure you, and I promise you, that when people feel heard and validated, the anger subsides. We all want to feel heard and validated, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes just that can diffuse something for me. So yes. Yeah, that's lovely. Next thing I wanted to ask was, what do you think, two people are just so upset with each other that, gosh, they can't even be in the same room together. They're just, literally the energy is just, raw. Like they just cannot. They may have tried or not, but they just are so angry or upset. What do you suggest for those type of folks? I mean, that's a big one. I mean, hopefully none of us have to get in those situations very often, but they do come up.
It happens. It happens a lot. I think it's going back again to taking care of yourself, and it might be that things are just too heated and just too intense to have a conversation at that time.
Yeah.
So what you may do is like schedule to come back and meet an hour later or that evening or the next morning, so both people have time to really get calmed down and to think about what they want to say and come back with a willingness to hear, and a curiosity, like I said. So, I think it's total. Most of us, when we get angry, we want to talk about it right then. We want to go at it right then. But I think it's very healthy, and very healthy couples will schedule time to have these kinds of discussions so that the really intense emotions have subsided, and they can come back at a time when they both feel, less angry and more calm.
Yes.
So it's fine to make an appointment, I mean, to say, I am so angry right now, I can't even stand to look at you. So can we come back in 2 hours,
Yeah. Well, that's a little, like, I don't know how far I get with my husband by saying that first statement, but I definitely have said the second part where, like, babe, just give me a second. Right now I cannot talk. Like, rah, and he's like, oh, porcupines are out, which just kind of makes me laugh. But, the truth is that he knows that right then and there, all of my emotions are too riled up to have a regular conversation and an intelligent conversation, or a grown-up is what they sometimes call them, that I'm too fired up. And so the fired up overtakes some of the normalcy out of what would be a regular conversation. And so I will tell him, babe, I'm sorry, 2 seconds, and then he'll come back with a smile, and he'll be like, okay, here's why, baby. This is why I think this. And I'm like, well, why do you, so then I'm intently out of curiosity, listening to his conversation.
Right.
So you're absolutely right.
Well, and if we
get there, though.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because, like I said, when we're, in the moment, we just want to, lash out and get it out. But if you can give yourself that time, there can be a lot of insights that can come to you, before you might realize, wow, that's not really what I want to say. And, our words hurt.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes through my mind that I'm like, I am not saying that, but it's right there. Even though I know no part of me wants to say that. Yeah.
So that's a great thing to let your partner know that, or whoever you're talking to, that I need some time to process, and I really want to be, and say, I really want to be able to hear you, and right now I'm upset, and let me deal with my emotions, and that's really taking self-responsibility, and then come back to it, and that's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
For some people, if somebody leaves the room when there is a conflict going on, that can stir up even more, like abandonment issues. So, it's really good for the partner who might say, I need some time, to say, I'm not leaving this, I want to have this discussion, but I need some time to kind of gather my thoughts. So the other person doesn't feel like, you're just ignoring them or dismissing them, Because some of us, like I said, and I'm one of those people, I mean, when it's there, I want to fix it right away, So, so it's very healthy, to give yourself and the other person time to process, especially if it's an intense conversation.
Yeah, that's gold. I'm the opposite. So I do tend to be the person that will walk away, or I'm like, I can't do this right now, which is I have learned that it could set the other person off more. So So that learning that piece and you sharing that, I think that's gold. So thank you.
Yeah.
Deborah, another thing too is, what do you think is the biggest obstacle about communication? Why this? Why is communication so huge? But that's another question. But what's the biggest obstacle?
I think the biggest obstacle is listening because we have this internal dialogue going on in our head all the time, and we all have different perceptions and different ways that we see and hear things. And for most of us, we're not ever trained to listen, and we're especially not trained to be curious about other people's feelings when we're upset, right? We make it so much about us. So I think the idea is to, always, be willing to and it takes time. It's kind of a practice, to be willing to hear someone out and allow them to say what they need to say, without jumping in or without wanting to justify or explain, but I think the real thing is listening and giving the other person time to say how they feel and what's really going on. Because usually what happens, the other person is talking, and we're ready, to jump in there and justify or say,
Yeah.
well, this is why, or, and we're not doing that deep listening. And it takes practice, but when we learn how to do it, it can just take you miles down the road with a relationship, especially when you're having conflict. So.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for that. Here's one that I didn't preface you on and let you know that I'll ever be asking, but one of the biggest relationships that we have is the relationship with ourselves. And I think that this kind of leads into some of the other stuff we wanted to talk about or what we wanted to share with our folks. But tell me about a little bit about the communication that we should be having ourselves, and just that's a big conversation, but just to give us a couple of brief things.
Yeah, I think I think the inner dialogue is, that, we could do hours and hours, and we have done classes on this. The inner dialogue, the way we speak to ourselves has a lot to do with the way we speak to other people, too. Yeah. So, becoming aware of that voice in your head and being willing to be gentle and kind. I have this this one rule to live by is, don't talk to yourself any different than you would talk to a 5-year-old,
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and, it's hard because we have a tendency to judge ourselves really harshly. And, we're all in places where we're challenged, and the more that we are speaking to ourselves in a judgmental way, the less happy we are and the less willing we are to show up in the world and treat other people well. And, I think I said something on the class the other night. We were talking about, if I'm mad at me, I'm mad at you,
Right.
So the relationship that we develop with ourselves is absolutely, totally, number one, because the way you treat yourself, it is giving and loving to yourself to say to that person, you know what, I am not in the space right now to have this conversation, and I really want to hear you, and I'd love for you to be able to hear me and for us to heal this rift. And that's a loving thing to do for yourself.
Yeah.
So all of this takes, a little bit of practice and time, because let's face it, most of us were not taught how to communicate, especially in intimate relationships, right?
Yeah.
Generally what we saw in our families is not what we want to do now. So it's
I don't know. I think sometimes I want the dysfunction. No.
Yeah, so I love that you asked that question. The relationship with ourselves is the number one thing. And with that, I want to say, Lyanca, I want to invite our listeners to I hope some of these, the dialogue between you and I today, and the ongoing that we have in our community, and these kind of tips. I want to let our community know that you and I are going to be having some great conversations with some incredible leaders soon. And we're going to be doing a summit, which is where Lyanca and I will be interviewing just masterful people in communications and love and business, and getting really, their secrets as to how they do it. And we're so excited to be putting this on, to be inviting these leaders in, to be giving, you, the listeners, even more information. And it's free!
Yes, it's all free. It's all free.
So, yeah. Do you mind talking a little bit more about what a summit is? For people who may not have been, have been on them before and had the opportunity to listen.
Yeah. So what a telesummit is it's basically a big, it's an event, but it's all done online. So you have an event, you're going to get, we're doing media to get the word out, to share with folks. So if you have people that you want to share and invite them in, please do. But the way it works is that, we're going to invite all the speakers, all the thought leaders, all the masterful folks, people who have created lots of wealth in their business, who've overcome cancer, who have built a really great health following, all to talk about their relationships with themselves, their relationships with others, intimacy, dropping some of the facades and being very, very authentic. And so we're going to ask them some very deep questions, even stuff that goes on maybe in their bedroom. I know it's kind of funny, but truthfully what we're saying, or in their business conversations, it's all interconnected, and we'll show you how in this summit. But the way a telesummit works is basically all you have to do is you just provide your first name and your email, and that's it. And you'll get all of the updates to your email. So we'll just let you know that we're jumping on the line. It's all done over the phone. So you can either listen in using your phone during the day, or you can listen in via webcast. So you'll just, you'll get all the directions and instructions to your email. We will send that, and you can launch it from your email, the internet webcast, or you can just dial in. It's a phone number and a code, and you jump on the line. You're going to be muted, so you don't have to worry about that. And then we will open the line up eventually for some questions, but you just come on, listen to what the speaker has to offer. There's so many great tools and techniques that they share on the line, and it's all free. So, we're not spamming you, we're not going to, whatever. Sometimes our speakers want to invite you in for more working with them. If you elect to do that, great. If you don't, keep coming back and just listening to all of the tools and techniques. We love having you. We want to create this for change, because we know so many people are seeking that in their world today. So, here you go. So
and also it's recorded, so if the interview is at a time where it's not convenient for you, we'll have the recording up for a while. And like Lyanca said, I mean, this is free. This is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time, and the leaders and the visionaries that we've asked to come on our summit, I mean, we want them. We want you to be able to hear what their inside secrets are to their lives, and making their lives work and their relationships work and their business successful. So we're so excited about this. So all you have to do is sign up. So go to the box right here, just put your name and your email, and we will keep you in the loop. And it's going to be a great ride. And also, just remember too, some of the speakers will be taking calls. So if you have specific issues going on and you relate to one of the speakers, I mean, it's like getting free, advice or getting free coaching right on a call. So, I just love that we're going to be able to offer you this. So please sign up.
Yes, I mean, there's no obligations, no strings attached. If if you find that you're too busy and you can't join us anymore, well, we're going to send a replay, and you'll get that to your email as well. And if you need to minimize the number of times that you're receiving emails, well, then you just change the subscribe options. So there you go. I mean, it's all no strings attached. We're not, like I said, it's just for you. So there you go.
We're going to make it very easy for you to, gain, more insights and wisdom from some of the greatest thought leaders out there. So it's our gift to you. So, leave your email, and we look forward to connecting and really giving you more great information and you being in our world.
Yay! Well, we'll see you later, guys. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thanks. See you soon.